The flatbread we chose to make is a spelt breakfast bread that originated in the Swiss Alps. Spelt flour was originally considered a poor people's flour, but is now sometimes used as a substitute for whole wheat flour. For this recipe, we first scaled out 224 grams of warm water, 21 grams of honey, 5 grams of salt, 9 grams of olive oil, and 400 grams of the spelt flour. We measured the honey and the oil together in a bowl in order to make it easier to get out all of the honey.
After measuring all the ingredients, the first step is to combine them all in a medium-sized bowl and mix them until the dough begins to form. We started with the wet ingredients and the salt and added the flour about a cup at a time. Because the batch is so small, it's easier to mix by hand and a mixer is not necessary. Continue to add the flour until the dough forms. Once the dough begins to form, dump all the contents of the bowl onto the table and continue kneading for 3 to 5 minutes until the dough is well mixed. Next, we let the dough rest for 10 minutes so it's easier to shape. Make sure to lightly dust the table with flour so the dough doesn't stick.
Form the dough into a neat ball before leaving it to rest. After the dough is rested for 10 minutes, gently flatten it and then divide it into 8 equal pieces. With the dough that we had, this ended up being about 80 grams apiece. To make it easier to flatten the individual loaves and to help the way they looked, we then rounded out the divided dough before pressing it in between our hands to flatten the balls. Press the dough out and leave the loaves as round as possible in order to ensure they look the best they can. The spelt bread baked at 425 degrees. The bread was finished after about 15 minutes when the loaves are firm to the touch. Because the bread does not stay fresh long, it is recommended to only make as much as will be eaten that day.
Spelt is about 9,000 years old and is one of the earliest domestic grains. It is an ancient grain that has not changed since its mentioning in the Old Testament. Spelt was popular in Europe and in the Middle East. There was virtually no spelt growing in North America, but it is slowly becoming more popular.
Spelt flour contains gluten and has a nutty, complex flavor that is sweeter and lighter than that of whole wheat, and it is a good source of fiber, iron, protein, and manganese. It has a tough outer husk that is not removed during the harvesting process. This outer husk helps protect the grain kernels from any pollutants and insects. Since it is stored with the husk intact until it is prepared for sale or use, spelt grain remains fresher longer. Spelt is slowly experiencing a resurgence, and more people value the health benefits of this grain.
Spelt has numerous benefits for our body. Spelt is very gentle on the digestive tract, and it is higher in vitamin B6, B1, B17, and vitamin E than any other hybridized wheat. Spelt contains more protein, fats, and fiber than the common wheat. It also contains certain carbohydrates which play a decisive role in blood clotting and stimulate the body's immune system so as to increase the resistance to infection. The flavor of the bread was similar to that of a whole wheat bread. It is bland and slightly dry when served alone, but it is most commonly served with jam, marmalade, or honey during breakfast time.